Hello, and welcome to the Intentional Healing Podcast. This show will dive deep into the issues that disrupt the lives of BIPOC folk in urban communities. Because guess what? We understand that people from the hood need healing too. We can't always be hard. We just need to be intentional about our healing. I am your host, Veronica Higgins, and today we are going to talk about stepping into our power while being a girl from the hood with my day one, with my ace, with my girl, Loni Bennett. So we will discuss the complexities of existing outside other people's perceptions of women from Compton. So stay tuned because this conversation will be a mind-opening one. Okay, so today we're going to be diving deep with my girl, Loni. So Loni and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago regarding being a woman from Compton and how whenever we talk to people or introduce ourselves and let them know where we're from, the stereotypes or the misconceptions or the perception that they have of us as women from the hub city. And so I'm going to let Loni chime in. But before we start with Loni, I always like to break the ice by asking people about themselves, right? Because we need to know what you do, what you like, what you love. All right. So, hey, Loni.
Hey, my love.
How are you?
I am well, sis. How are you?
Oh, good.
I'm so excited for you and your first episode of your podcast.
I'm excited for us because guess what? Melanin popping. Okay.
Hey.
So, Loni, to break the ice and to get you in your zen zone. All right.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, boo. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is red. But you know that already.
Red. Okay. All right, but what's your favorite song?
You know what? So when I was preparing to come speak to you today, and I got the what is your favorite song question, I thought about it. So I love music. I love music. And it's always hard for me to pick a favorite, like within the arts, but especially music, right?
Right.
So for years and years and years, when people ask me, like, what's my favorite song, I always tell them it's Angel by Anita Baker. Because I love that song, right? And that's been like my favorite song since like high school.
Okay.
But I have a whole lot of other songs, right? So I was like, let me reflect on this. You know, sometimes you have to upgrade your favorite.
You have
Things
to,
have happened in life.
Yeah.
Right? So then I said, let me think about it. And so I asked my husband, I said, what's my favorite song? He just shook his head. He didn't even bother to answer me. He's like, I'm not getting sucked into that vortex. So let me think about it, right? So I'm like, what songs? Like, I love a lot of things. I'm like, what songs do I listen to all the time? Or what song gives me that zhuzh? You know what I mean? Yeah, what's the song that I respond to the same way every time, right?
Okay.
And when I thought about it, I said, oh my God, I can't believe that I hadn't upgraded this to my favorite song before.
Okay.
It's My Place by Tweet.
What?
That's a classic. My song.
Is that one of those songs you're like, oh?
You know what? When the beat drops, when it comes in, a chill from the top of my head every single time. And I was like, why is this? To the point where when I finally had the awakening,
right,
I had to put it on.
So now after this, you're going to have to get in your car and play the song.
Listen.
Okay.
I listened to it last night. I listened to it this morning because I was like, is this the favorite? This is the favorite.
I guess it's the favorite.
It is.
Well, you know what? I thought you were going to say something else because, I know you and you know me and we know each other.
Oh, yeah,
right?
we do?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So remember that time I rolled up on you and we were playing the Girl with the Good Knees song? And I didn't even think you jumped right in on cue? And you know her name is Meg?
Listen, that's just black girl magic that happened that day.
You just hopped in. I pulled up, rolled the window down. You jumped in the car.
Listen, I just cooperated accordingly. This is what we do.
No instructions required.
Listen.
Absolutely not. Okay, so we got My Place.
Yes.
So, okay, what's your favorite movie?
Coming to America. Easy. Coming to America is my favorite movie. Let me give you a little back on that.
Go ahead.
So I went and saw Coming to America when it came out, opening weekend. I was a kid. My dad took me to the Centinela Drive-In by Fox Hills Mall, right? We saw it. when I got home, he brought me home. And I got home. My mother had in her possession by the time I got home VHS
already
of Coming to America. She got it from my uncle, who had a really good friend who worked in
I
costumes
she
at Paramount.
Got that for somebody around the corner.
Oh no,
yeah,
no!
Right,
She's a costume designer for Paramount.
Okay, gotcha.
And she had an unedited cut of this movie. So when I see the movie, even to this day, I remember all of the extra jokes, all of the extra, and see, this is before DVD, so this was not like added value you could get on,
like
after
the extra, like the extra.
No, it's like they call it added value, in home entertainment, right? So there's nothing like that, right? But I remember everything. And so when I watch the movie, I always get to certain parts and I tell people, yo, on the original one, Eddie Murphy goes off right here. And so we still have the VHS. It's in my mom's possession, but my mother was the chick that was like renting videos and like dubbing them.
You know, sorry, you tell your mama all her good business. Tell your mama all them good. We're sorry. We did not mean for her to tell all your business, mama.
Listen, it's Music Plus is no longer in business. Okay. So I want to come after mama.
That's because they was only charging a penny.
But listen, no. We had this thing. We would hit the warehouse. We would hit Music Plus. We would hit Tower. This was every Wednesday, every Thursday of my life. Like she would pick me up from St. Albert and we'd be like on the road. And she would rent like anywhere from 3 to 12 movies.
And get her dub on?
Listen.
She was a real dub.
She was dubbing in her room. My uncle, she bought my uncle 2 VCRs so he could dub in his room. He loved watching movies, so he was down for it all the time. Right. He just watched the movies and they would just record movies. And then the next day she'd take them back.
She was the plug for that man selling them 3 for 10.
Plug for the neighborhood.
No, remember that guy that selling 3 for 10, the food for less.
Oh yeah. No, listen,
she was the plug
my mother is the grandmother of that guy. Okay. She's the one. My mother's the legend. People will be like,
and we appreciate
what your mom got new
for
this
the entertainment value that you provided for the city of Compton over the years.
Listen, so, because those movies back in the day were like $200 for those VHS. If you wanted to actually buy them, ridiculous.
Thank God for DVDs.
Thank God.
And you know what? I had the unedited version of Soul Plane. And so when I saw the girl, when I saw the regular version, it just was not the same. It's just like, okay, back in the day, remember when rappers would make their underground tapes? Yeah. But then they would take some of that underground stuff, the freestyles, and make it to a regular song?
Yes.
DJ Quick did this fire underground mix, right? And when you listen to it, you can hear Tonight, Locked Out Hood, all of it, right? So when I heard the album, I was like, ain't this it happens. It don't hit the same. Okay. So you know me and you, we go back and forth all day. Okay, so last but not least, what is your sign?
I'm a Capricorn.
Of course you
are. All day long, December 30th. The right kind of cap.
I don't know if Mr. Higgins would agree with that.
Listen, let me tell you something. Capricorns are everything. Okay, we end the year, we start the year. We are the alpha and
no, you're not. Absolutely not. You always want to start in the middle of the year because that's when things get good. Taurus gang. Okay, so what you know about the Mars?
Oh, Lord.
Okay. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, sis.
Okay, so now that we got you warmed up, because you can't just drive a car without warming it up. Especially if you want a classic car. You got to warm it up, right? And we're classics,
yes,
okay?
We are.
So let's just dive in deep. The purpose of this podcast is just to touch on issues and concerns that we usually see from people who exist in our community, right? Our Black and brown people. So when you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago and we were discussing how people see women, particularly Black women from the city, we had concerns about what that looked like and what it was, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to start with my first question. When you think about your identity as a melanated Black woman, goddess of the earth, right? Sun reflects off your skin, right? Just glowing. She's a queen to be.
Yes.
When you think about your identity as a Black woman from Compton, from the hub, how would you describe yourself? Especially considering how people automatically describe you once you say you are a Black woman from the hub.
That is a layered question. Let me think. For me, I've always been, let me see, how do I frame this?
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in Compton,
Right.
you know, but my experience was always within the city and like without the city.
Okay.
My father lived in Inglewood. So I always say I partially grew up both places because I had that flow between my parents' house, which was, you know, easy for me. I could always just pick up the phone, come get me, come
Right.
get me, come back, get me, either
Right.
side. So I always had experiences outside of the city. I went to St. Albert, I went to Regina Chaley,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually I graduated from Inglewood High School. Having all of that, you know, and Inglewood is not as much of a hood as it kind of carved out to be for a minute. Now it's moving towards gentrification land.
It's called I Would now.
Oh, is it I Would?
It's I Would. That's what
Okay.
Issa Rae said. Go ahead.
Oh, Lisa. Oh, Lisa. No, I love Lisa Rae.
I said Issa.
For me, oh, Issa Rae.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're okay. Sorry, I went completely left
It's
with that.
okay. I'm sorry.
I love her too.
Yes.
Back to the question though. For me, I've always been really, really like secure in who I am, and I think it has everything to do with the fact that I never fit whatever stereotype that was put out there, right? So I'm all things Compton, right? I'm everything Compton. I don't have an issue with that. I know the grimiest, you know, to the most successful. And I just never, I don't know. I think within the city I'm fine. When I was a lot younger and I'd graduated from college and I was trying to get into the professional world and I always wanted to work in entertainment, I never had another goal.
Right.
And so me being who I am, it never occurred to me until I started applying, until I started doing internships, until I had to deal with the juxtaposition of Lanisha versus Lonnie, you know, and it wasn't until then that that it was something that I really thought about. And then I felt my day to day, like I was kind of taking on the role of portraying my city well and, you know, making sure that I was, you know, squashing everyone's
You're a Compton representative.
Yeah, it was, you know, and it wasn't that I was seeking out like trying to see what do they think about me, what do they feel about me. It was never that because you know at the end of the day, Capricorn, I said that, so I didn't really care about that. But you know, it was more thinking about me wanting to move up in this industry and what are people going to think. I mean, I had a boss. I had this lady. She was an attorney.
Okay.
She double majored at USC in both film and law, and she was type A, and she was a military background, and then she ended up going to NYU for law school. And this lady, she saw me and she saw any and everything she'd ever heard about Black people, people from Compton, Black women, like all wrapped
she put
up
all her
to
stereotypes
everything.
in one box.
She
and it was
did,
you?
but she was very, you know, California PC.
Okay.
You know, and so she never really said, you know, I don't think you're capable of much. She would just hinder me in a lot of ways.
So a lot of microaggressions popping off.
Oh, daily, right? Daily. And because everyone else around me was so great and I wasn't picking up on that same vibe, I was able to deal with her. I know if there were like 30 more of her in that situation, there's no way I would have been able to sit through that. But it was a great experience for me. It's what needed to happen in order for me to move, because I didn't work for her the whole time. Eventually, I was able to move on to another desk and work with other attorneys, and it was a fabulous experience. It's still the best job I had working there. It was New Line Cinema. It's still hands down the best place I ever worked. The best experience I ever had as an employee, you know. But in dealing with that, it really it forced me to decide what I was going to do. Are you going to be you in these spaces and just put forth what you're there for, which is whatever professional task you have, whatever, you know, your goals are professionally? Are you just going to take you, or are you going to curb your enthusiasm, if you will? Are
so you was establishing your identity?
Yeah, like, was I going to assimilate, I guess is the word that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really had to, because again, I was never the person they thought I was anyway. I was never, in that stereotypical role that they wanted me to be in or thought I was in. And eventually, just me being me,
Right.
they figured that out.
Okay, so they adjusted
They
to who
adjusted
you
to
are
me.
as opposed to you
Absolutely.
code-switching or assimilating.
Well, listen, there were some instances where I did have to code switch, and my code switch game is cold-blooded.
It's fire.
Oh, it's cold.
Absolutely.
And I can do that, but it's more like code switching to move forward the progress of whatever's happening in the moment. It was never about code switching for acceptance or
it's just to
anything
move,
like
make
that.
progress
Yes.
within that moment.
It was. I saw it, I guess, as speaking the language of those in the room to communicate and then be done with that.
Be done. It's just like if you're on the beach, when you're on the sand, you're gonna make sure that you have your blanket and stuff. But then when you get in the water, you're gonna make sure you paddle it.
It's the tools for the environment.
Exactly. Okay. So that's always interesting because a lot of times, a lot of people, especially those that I meet who are from the city and they go into these other spaces, right? These other spaces, they find themselves making those type of decisions regarding their identity. Like, how am I going to show up? Right? Am I going to show up and let them know not everybody from Compton is this way? Or am I just going to show up, be myself? Right, and then make my moves accordingly. And so you showed up as yourself and made your moves accordingly because you did not want to be defined by not only your Blackness, but by your zip code.
Right. And we already have to do that in a lot of spaces anyway. And so I didn't want a job within my job. I didn't want to be going there doing my actual job. And then this other job of trying to portray
it's exhausting.
What makes them feel safe,
making them feel comfortable,
having you around.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was absolutely not going to do that
because it's absolutely not your job to make them feel comfortable.
It's never not. And I'm more comfortable with that now than I ever have been, because I think on some small level we're like programmed to keep the peace within chaos, and it's such a huge ask.
When you say we, do you mean Black people or Black women?
Black people in general.
Okay.
We are always subconsciously towing that line, making sure we don't step on toes, we don't make them feel, bad about whatever we're going through. If that makes sense.
It does.
And when you think about that, it's enabling in a way. It's not something that we do because we're trying to do it, but we've enabled society at large to continue to view us the way they do, to treat us the way that they do, and to receive us the way that we do.
We've been institutionalized and socialized to behave that way, to be complicit in existing and surviving. And so when anyone tries to step outside of that, they're looked at as a difficult person.
Right.
Mean.
Aggressive. That's my favorite word.
I say I'm assertive with a touch of jazz.
Aggressive. It's like, really, you can say, well, A, B, C, D. And they're like, she's being aggressive. Right. It's like,
but did you have to say it in that tone?
Yeah. It's that. You know what I read? I read, actually, I listened to in the form of audiobook, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo.
I have that in my Amazon cart as it speaks.
Check out the cart, okay?
Check the cart
Go ahead and go to the next screen.
Okay, got you.
It is, and this is a white woman who wrote this book.
What's good? Yes.
Card pulling, blouse ripping, pearl shredding the whole time. Okay. And it's what is needed. Listen, you won't listen to us tell you what it is. So listen to someone else who didn't quite get the same programming that you guys got, or someone that was able to rise above that level of ignorance.
Well, yeah, and I think that's probably what it is. She was able to, you know how you go through a healing process?
Yes.
And then the lights are brighter and the colors are brighter, and then you have those aha moments. So she was someone who had an aha moment,
and she let it go.
And she shared her aha moment with the rest of the population.
It's phenomenal. It really is. She breaks it all down. I encourage your listeners, get that book, read it. Audible, however you want
I'm
to
gonna have to
get
do an
that
Audible
book.
because my eyes hurt from reading too much, but I do have it on my car.
Yeah, I
have it on my
feel like
car.
I'm better with audiobooks because it allows me to multitask. Like I
Exactly.
never have the
'Cause when you
time
have
to
to sit down
sit
with a
and
book,
like,
this is
no,
what we doing.
page
Okay.
flip. No, I don't
And
have
then
that
you
kind
lose
of
your
time.
page or you get tired.
Yeah, no.
So but we're not against books.
We are
We
not
love
against books.
reading. We're saying that if you have multiple tasks, sometimes it's great to get a good audio book.
Yes, it's 2020. Why not?
Do what you got to do. Save paper, save trees.
Save paper, save trees.
All right. So, okay. Thank you for sharing that perspective, because when we look at what healing looks like and being intentional about it, we have to also solidify what our identity is so that way we can move forward, right? So what we're going to do is take a break. And after this break, we'll dive into the next section. All right. This episode of the Intentional Healing Podcast is sponsored by Color Compton, an organization intentionally working with Compton youth to build community among people of color through history and art. Check them out at www.colorcompton.org. Welcome back. So I hope you enjoyed that first segment where we were looking at perceptions and how people view individuals from Compton. So Loni, thank you for sharing your truth. If anyone knows Loni and I, we will go back and forth with conversation for hours.
All day long.
All day, every day. But now we're going to go into the second session. And I call this part Reclaiming Your Power. Okay? And so, considering what we discussed previously, when you were talking about your previous employer and things of that nature, and how you are not going to be the representative for Compton, right? What I want to ask you is, how do you keep yourself from giving your power away? Like, how do you keep yourself from snapping at people, going off, doing the hand moving?
Well, that's the Lord's work. I'll just tell you that.
Hallelujah.
It's come with some maturity. My filter's a lot tighter than it used to be. I was never the hand roll. I was never that girl. I like words. I like the use of words.
But you did used to use your head because you'll cock that head like this.
That's just a reaction. That's me buffering at 70%. You see me do that. I'm really trying to collect the thoughts. That's all that is. But, I guess different situations call for different things. But for me, me not giving my power away is me understanding my power. Also, knowing that once you give it away, it's no longer yours.
Exactly.
I had a civics teacher in high school, and he is the first person that I can remember in my life to teach me about perspectives and the way you choose to react to things. And he said the moment that you allow someone to get you out of your comfort zone by what they do, your strings on pieces of wood at that point.
You're their puppet.
Yeah. And you no longer have your power. You give it away, you lose ground.
Right.
And it didn't, it wasn't something that I picked up at 16 and was like, great, I'm running this through life. No, it was not something that really, really settled into me for like years, decades later. I'll say in my 30s, maybe, which is that age that you kind of look back at your 20s and you go, she was a mess.
How did I survive all of that?
My gosh. Why? But it also helps you season those 30s because you don't cease to run into those situations anymore. You have the experience. You already know what happened when you reacted the other way.
Right.
And so...
Or you didn't react at all.
Right. And so now for me, I think being 42, being in my Jackie Robinson year.
This one right here.
I think I'm at the place where it's like, I see what you're doing there.
You're trying to poke the
bear.
Yeah.
And so I try not to make it a game. I try not to make it a back and forth thing.
Oh, absolutely not.
I just get out of the moment and take the lesson. That's kind of where I'm at with it now,
Mhm.
just kind of getting out of the moment, taking the
Mhm.
lesson. And trust me, I am tried a lot. Okay.
And do you think you're tried a lot, or do you think sometimes your perception of the individual or the situation, it just puts you on high alert?
I think it could be both depending on the situation.
Mhm.
Professionally,
Mhm.
um, I get more exercise and, using restraint
Right.
and more opportunities to actually, you know, hone my power, if that makes sense. Because
Okay.
every time someone comes at you that way and you find yourself in that space,
Right.
if you go right
Mhm.
instead of going left,
Mhm.
most of the time you feel empowered after that.
You
And
do.
so when you just live in that moment for a second,
Mhm.
then you take that empowerment, you build on that, and then you take it into the next situation.
Right.
It becomes easier and easier to do.
But how do you do that? Because a lot of people have different strategies and different techniques
Yeah.
and retaining their power, right? And so when you're thinking about being in a situation, professionally or personally, socially, however,
Mhm.
right? And you see it and you feel it, right? What do you say to yourself in that moment to keep yourself from giving your power to that person who's trying to play with you?
I remind myself
Mm-hmm.
that I have the power to choose my reaction in that moment.
Okay.
So in my mind, it happens really fast,
Right.
but okay, hold on. It's like that. Like okay, wait.
I
And
know
then it's
she
a
didn't.
quick assessment. It's like
Mhm.
all these things going.
You like, I know they didn't just. Did they just?
Did she just get that? Well, you could just,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But it's that.
Right.
Honestly, it's not something major. It's
Right.
not any steps. It's just about grounding yourself in that moment, realizing exactly what's happening. Because I think when you react emotionally, emotion is like the absence of like thought.
Well, it literally actually is in your brain. So
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So I feel like, if you think in that moment versus reacting,
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes all you need is space. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it takes 3 seconds to like really recognize the situation and go, "Oh, okay."
Right.
Especially if it's familiar,
Right.
and at this point in my life, it's all familiar. Like there's nothing brand new for the most part that you're dealing with. It may be a new person, a new environment, the
Mm-hmm.
wording may be different,
Right.
but disrespect is disrespect.
No matter how they put
You
it
know what
forth.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Miscommunication is miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
Passive aggressive is
I
passive
cannot
aggressive.
stand passive
Yeah, it
aggressiveness.
drives
Just say
me
it.
crazy.
Ah.
And so, but those 3 seconds, it's those 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Think, overreacting.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And that's good because a lot of times with people is that when you become emotionally charged, that part of your brain that handles reasoning, that stuff is shut down
Out the door.
out the door.
Mhm.
So this is why they always tell people to calm themselves.
Mhm.
So that's why I wanted to ask you, like, what do you do in that moment? And I like the fact that you do have a process.
Yeah.
In your brain, you are playing out, okay, did they do this? Should I do this? Oh, this is not about to happen. Let me, and then you respond.
Right.
But you had
It
to
happens
work
quick.
quickly, and
Yeah.
you probably had to work up to that,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. That is not,
Yeah, that's a
I didn't wake
skill.
up like that.
Yeah. Oh, you
You
ain't
know?
even. I woke up like this.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
And that's good because remember how you said as you've matured, right, and you've
Mhm.
come into yourself, right, your reactions have changed.
Yeah,
Yes. And
absolutely.
and I've known you for a long
A
time,
long time.
and I can see that your reactions have changed.
Okay.
Right.
We'll recognize the glow up then.
Let me
Done
tell
some
y'all
things.
something. Lonnie and I used to be part of PTO
That's right.
at our children's school,
Woo-woo.
right? Woo woo. We was ride or die for them kids and for
Okay.
them teachers.
Gangsters
Okay.
for our kids.
Okay. And so it got to one point, something happened, and I started calling Lonnie PTO gangster. And so I even had her name in my phone as PTO gangster. Right. Now I changed it to Lonnie Boo. So that shows you remember on it's growth.
Mhm.
Right?
It's growth.
It's growth.
Mhm.
And so when I look at this beautiful queen right now, and when we have our conversations, I can see, right, that growth. And it's a beautiful thing because you've been intentional about your healing
I have
process.
been.
and about your power, and not playing games with nobody who's trying to come up in your face.
That's
right?
That's
Act
right.
up, you can get snatched up.
Listen,
but we're not
it
snatching.
can still happen.
We're not snatching.
But we're growing.
We're not snatching physically. We'll snatch you verbally.
That's my favorite
With
kind
love.
of snatching. Yeah. That's where I
you
live.
are the
That's my ministry.
professional of the verbal snatchings, okay? And so when we think about moving forward, right? And as you continue to just work on yourself and step outside your comfort zone, how do you feel like you've been intentional with your healing process, with your growth? Like, how have you been intentional about it?
I think the thing I have the most control of outside of my reaction to things are my environment. And so environment's really, really important. And it's all of the spaces that you exist in. It's your home space, your workspace, your online space.
Online, honey.
Because that's important. I mean,
Yes.
it's funny that your online space is now like a legit space in everyone's life. Like if you're just functioning in 2020 and you're just, out there amongst everyone else on planet Earth, it's another space.
Right.
And it can be a destructive space, and so you have to be careful with that. For me, I won't say I'm good at cutting people and things off, but I've always been good at recognizing things that are not good for me and things that are just kind of clouding my space. I've always had that thing. Like I tell people all the time, I know a whole lot of people, but I only have a couple of friends. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people. And I'm good with everybody that I know.
But everybody don't know you.
Everybody doesn't know me. That's a whole word.
Right.
And this to be true because sometimes people are in your space and they're good for certain things in your space.
Right.
And I don't want to sound like, you use people for what you need
it's
them
called
for.
Compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
You know your relationship with that person, so you go to them for that thing.
It's exactly that. And so I'm intentional about that. Like I recently started another Facebook page.
I know.
Okay.
I made the cut.
And I did that for several reasons, but one of the main reasons was that what I didn't realize was that just the way that social media is set up, I didn't choose that for me. Like I didn't choose that environment. I didn't think about pre-social media life, right?
Before MySpace?
Yeah, I'm talking about period.
Okay.
Remember when you actually had to physically speak to people to get to know them,
Yeah,
and you
that's
had
true.
to be in their space, and
right.
the prehistoric days of communicating.
Yeah, with the three-way calls.
Yeah,
yes.
like when you actually had to do that, you could pick and choose who you wanted to talk to. If you didn't want to have a conversation, you walk away from it, or whatever it is.
Right.
But you could choose your physical being within that space.
You curated your friends.
Yeah. Now, if you allow yourself to be a part of this vast universe online, now you're exposed to people that you generally wouldn't be. If you read certain stories, and everything has the comment section, so you're seeing comments from people that you never
care about,
would have known, or you don't know. You still don't know.
Right.
But what they put could affect you in a way. Like it could cause you to react. Something really simple. Somebody could say something and it doesn't fit with your viewpoint on politics or whatever it is. You're instantly moved and shifted in a way by that, right? And sometimes you would find yourself arguing with these people. Listen, I spent years arguing.
I don't argue
with
online.
people online.
Yeah.
In the initial years, like just feeling like, but this is me a long time ago.
We're Facebook friends. I've seen.
Yes.
I could go to see who you read for entertainment.
So listen, you have to think about what that does
to you
spiritually, what it does to you mentally and subconsciously.
Right.
Because now you have this tension. And why? Over 6 or 7 strangers that you don't know, that you wouldn't, I say this all the time. You don't walk up to people on the street and just go off or just go, you know what? You don't do that
right.
in physical real life.
Right.
But it has an effect on you. And so I said all that to say, this is why I created the new page.
Right.
Because I wanted to be intentional about
And I was getting ready to say that.
what
Okay.
I'm receiving,
Mm-hmm.
actively receiving and passively receiving.
Right.
You can scroll past something that you really don't read,
Right.
and it'll snapshot into your brain, and you'll
Right.
keep going. You'll
Because
think
I always say
about
that's
it.
the unhealed parts of our spirit.
Yeah.
So when you feel triggered by something, what exactly is it that you don't like? And why do you feel in that moment that you have to respond?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we look at, and I'm glad that when you said you made the second page, I knew why you did it, but that's your healing, that's your growth.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times when I always tell people if something hits you, it's either an unhealed part of yourself or it reminds you of a part of yourself that you don't like. Right? And so when you think about people making comments on social media, first of all, and it hits you, it might hit you because that might be an unhealed part of yourself when it comes to racism, sexism, anything, because that's personal, right? Or it might be something they say, you like, oh, that used to be the old me, and now I'm a different person, and now this person is reminding me of what I used to be, and I don't like it because I'm still working through that. And so you taking control, reclaiming your power, made you intentional about what you're healing and with your daily journey, because social media is a daily thing.
Yeah.
And you want to curate a space that is reflective of where you are currently. So I give you much kudos because I used to be all up and through. I'm like, okay, you know what?
I'm out.
You got so much better.
Spoken for the most part, and I'm still that person. Like everyone has opinions, and I still have opinions and strong opinions on everything. But my opinions don't belong to everybody else. And they're not everyone else's to control, deal with, process, all of those things,
Right.
And if I do put my opinion of something out there, generally depending on the space or situation, I try to do it with the intent of helping in some way or informing in some way. I try to refrain from shaming people or or like you said, putting your own damage in the forefront of what you're saying, as opposed to just responding to the thing and not allowing whatever your emotion is or whatever your past is to kind of, push you in the direction of projecting that onto other people.
And that's exactly what people on social media are doing. They're
Absolutely.
projecting. And I'm so happy to hear you say that because, I'm the queen of block, unfollow. You already know. You said, oh, you got one good time. Okay. It was nice knowing you because I feel like you're right. It does trigger us emotionally and spiritually. This is my thing. Like I tell my children, you have the right to feel whatever you want to feel. Right? I also feel like you have the right to post wherever you want to post. But in those moments, how I respond is up to me.
Yeah.
So if I don't like it, I can either unfriend you, report you to Instagram, or,
You want to reporters, huh?
If it's some racist or sexist,
You know what?
I have a backup page.
It depends.
That nobody know about. And y'all would never figure out it's me. But I would go in and I would report people. And I will do, because certain things I feel like is toxic. So if I see the same toxic stuff, I will report it. I don't care. I'm a snitch because guess what? I don't want to see that. And so.
But let me ask you.
Go ahead, boo.
Let me ask you.
Ask me, boo.
Is that you dealing with something with you?
It is.
Okay.
This is how I process, right? When something hits me, I always pick, my kids know this by now because they see me doing this. I talk out loud. Okay, what about this bothered me? I do this because I have to have this conversation with me.
That's a good strategy.
Right. Yeah. So what is it about this bother? I don't like it because I feel like it's perpetuating this ideal, right? But then I also ask myself, is this hurting you in this moment or is this affecting your day-to-day?
Right.
If it's a no, then I just keep scrolling. But if I feel like it's something that can incite other people, I go to my secret page
and get it in,
and I report it. Because I'm like, I'm thinking about ripple effects, right? I'm thinking about ripple effect. So I always have to ask, is this me? Because I feel people have a right to vote for whoever they want to vote for.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They have the right to marry whoever they want to marry, right? But is that certain? And I don't report a lot of people. You have to really do something just horrible for me to report you.
So you saying that wasn't you that reported me calling out that lady on the airplane that time? That wasn't you?
No. Why would I do that?
Continue.
I would have texted you, be like, girl, what else happened? Absolutely not. Because I could call you and be like, yeah, so let's talk about what you just posted. But no, my thing is ripple effect, right? When you're intentional about your healing, you are being intentional about what goes out, right? And so it's absolutely important that we do that, because even with my son on his social media, I'm real quick to inbox him. Yeah, we're gonna take this down.
No, that's your right as a parent,
right?
You
but I'm also teaching him
that.
to be a responsible, individual, so that way, because he's gonna be somebody's partner, somebody's business partner, somebody's spouse if he chooses to get married, right? So I'm responsible for curating that young Black man.
That's right. And his future spouse thanks you.
That's if he chooses to get married.
Oh, well,
it's his choice. What he does with his body is his thing.
Well, you're right about that.
Absolutely. Just make sure you do the right thing. Okay, so I love to sing. I'm like, do the right thing. Remember that song? You got to do the right thing.
Don't make me start housing at the table, okay? I was there in the 90s, live in living color.
This is what I'm talking about. If you was in here, you would see we both start vibing at the same time. We do this a lot. Okay, so my Loni Boo.
Yes, love.
AK former PTO gangster, right? Do you have any closing remarks for our listeners?
I would like your listeners to listen to me as I congratulate you on episode 1 of your podcast. I am so proud of you, absolutely proud of you. I don't know where you found the additional 17 hours in your day. You keep finding extra hours to accomplish all of these things, and I just want to be down, okay? Can I get an hour and a half? That's all I need. No, but I love you so much. I
love you too.
I'm so grateful for you in my life, and I just appreciate everything about you.
Oh, and I love that. We don't want to get no fines. We did good. We did not use any profanity.
And it's been the Lord's work, because I've intentionally been restraining myself.
Because we be dropping them.
There are a couple times where...
And I be looking at Mark for reassurance. Because I'm like, look, I don't want to get no fine.
Yeah, I've been looking over too.
Thank you, Loni. I love you on my A1 and my day one.
Yes.
And you are always welcome back. And then when you start your podcast, you just invite me on as a guest.
Yeah, we'll think about that.
Okay, do the right thing. And that is it. Thank you, Loni.
You're welcome, love.
This episode of the Intentional Healing Podcast is sponsored by Dragonfly Designs. Get arted by Dragonfly Designs as they take you from amateur to professional with their guided instruction. Hosted in-home or virtual paint party with your family and friends. Book your party today by visiting www.dragonflydesigns.com. That's www.dragonflydesigns.com. Thanks for sharing space with us today. Remember, your words have power. Use them to heal, not to harm. Until next time, boo things, stay prosperous.